ng Pilipinas.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and Dr. Willie Ong have officially declared their candidacies for the presidential and vice presidential post next year.
The fact that he has been a local executive, and I think a lot of the things that he had done in Manila are really good things, that's good, you know. We like people who have been local executives.
Demoralize yung mga health workers, doctors and nurses, yung sweldo nila, yung allowance, hindi lang yon. Kailangan din nila ng, sa tingin ko, parang recognition, di ba? Kasi mahirap talaga talagang buwis buhay. Saka pag na-COVID sila, dapat covered yung gastos nila.
When I say anybody, dilaw, pula, o naman ang kulay mo, baliwala yun sa akin dahil moreno naman ang kulay ng Pilipinas.
At least 3 contenders have signified their aspirations to be the next president of the Philippines. And so, like it or not, the election season has begun. Voters expect a few more names to be added to the list. Are Filipinos ready to scrutinize the presidentiables? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. And welcome to this midweek edition of The Chiefs. With us online are Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5 and Ana Marie Paminton of the Philippine Star, and of course, Robbie Lampay of One News. Ladies and Robbie, good evening and happy midweek.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Nako, masaya at makulay ang linggong ito at meron pa bukas.
Nga. Ano na yung...
Sasaya pa yan.
Oo.
Lalo na next week.
Oo. Ay, kasi nga naman, may 2 linggo pa bago magsimula ang filing ng candidacies.
Oo, kanina
Isa na lang.
Kanina sa big story, kausap ko si Barry Gutierrez, spokesperson ni Vice President. Sabi niya, another 2 weeks will not make a difference. But that's one of the big questions to Vice President Leni Robredo, di ba? Kasi talaga bang every day does not make a difference?
Lahat yun ang hinihintay natin hindi ba? Yung reaction.
Malay mo, bukas meron na. Di ba?
Walang Robbie, walang paramdam si Barry?
Wala, sabi niya, basta yun yung huli niya pasabi, ano ba yung sinabi niya, any short-term gain over 2 weeks doesn't make that much of a difference. Yun ang sabi niya.
So, meaning,
wala pang announcement. Wala pang announcement until filing.
Yan ang sinabi niya. Ulit niya, maghintay kayo.
Napakamahiwaga naman ang sagot ng yun.
Pero siguro may decision na. Kaya lang wala munang announcement. Kasi ang lapit na di ba? I mean, to have a decision by now, right?
Oo, at saka lalong-lalo na...
a few days away.
Exactly. Tsaka bawat araw, may mga sumasampa sa kung kani-kaninong bandwagon. Kahapon lang, we talked to Serge Osmeña. He blurted it out, di ba? I'll support Isko. Tapos mamaya may kausap tayo isa pa na meron ding endorse, di ba? Baka in 2 weeks, hindi mo alam kung nakani-kaninong kampo na yung mga yan.
Baka yung isang bayan, nalalaman kung ano na mangyayari.
Yeah.
Ayun na nga ba ang secret?
Actually, di ba sabi nga ni Senator Trillanes noon, yun ang frustration niya. Kasi pag matagal ka ring mag-declare, hindi alam ng mga supporters mo kung magsusupport na sila, kung tataya na sila, di ba? Yeah. So, meron ding advantage.
Yeah, doon na tayo sa...
Okay. Si Ami nagpaparamdam na. Sige, sumigwi na tayo sa ating first guest for tonight. We begin with former Commission on Human Rights Chairperson and Sambayan Convener Eta Rosales. Ma'am Eta, magandang gabi po at welcome sa The Chiefs.
Good evening,
Magandang gabi po.
Nice to
Ma'am,
be here.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, of course, you wear many hats, pero at least for this first question, I'll ask you to wear your hat as a convener of Isang Bayan. Isang Bayan po kasi, of course, as we do recall, was choosing among Leni Robredo, Isko Moreno, and possibly Antonio Trillanes. In fact, it has an ongoing survey. I think it's a public survey. No, members and non-members are included. as to which candidate could get the most votes, and that will form part of the consultations of your group. Ito pong pag-declare ni Isko kanina na siya tatakbo. Where does this put the isang bayan mechanism? So sana po ngayon ang isang bayan?
Sa alam ko, patuloy pa rin yun. No? Kasi endorsement naman yan eh. Endorsement ng kung sino ang nakikita ng sambayan na, or yung, we have about 1 million members already. And more than that, mabilis yung pag-rapid ng developments ng internal organizing. So, it's a potential ang sambayan actually pagka mag-endorse siya. So, right now, we're finishing up to the 25th. Kagagalitan na naman nila ako kasi as a convener, I'm not supposed to talk. Masyado raw ako madaldal. Kaya,
Okay lang yun, ma'am.
Hindi naman po kayo madaldal. Ito nga po, may tatanong nga po ako sa inyo. Ito rin po yung tinanong ko kay Barry Gutierrez kanina sa Big Story. Do you consider Isko Moreno an oppositionist?
Sino ako ang tatanungin mo?
Apo, kayo po.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, actually, he is opposition to Duterte insofar as Duterte has been hurting him. So it's a very personal relationship, yung kanyang galit. But rather than that, hindi siya oppositionist. He's never been that much of an oppositionist. Even when, he said, what about the West Philippine Sea? I think he said, well, we will fight for the fisher folk. That's nice. No, that he will be, as president, he will fight for the fisher folk. But what about all those armed militia ships that are destroying, that are actually hurting the waters and destroying the coral reefs, and then even getting the fishes? Because we are now importing, can you imagine that? We are importing galunggong. Which they got from the West Philippine Sea, which China got from the West Philippine Sea. And we are now importing galunggong from them. So that is the irony of ironies, because that's the poor man's fish. Pero yun ang nangyayari. So
that's why I asked po, because actually even at the start of the war on drugs, people were prompting each LGU in each local government, will there be pushback on how the war on drugs is being run? In the first year, at the very least, there wasn't that much of a pushback from Manila. And then fast forward, kahit sa Dolomite, hindi niya inopose. Kahit yung Dolomite Beach, his initial statements were, no, sinabi ng DNR, okay lang yan. Sinabi ng DOH, okay lang yan. And so on. But I ask in the context of how do we then frame isang bayan, given despite these differences fundamental differences in positions for very important topics, open naman yung both sides, that you are open to Isko Moreno, and Isko Moreno said at the very start he had talks, and he is talking still with Vice President Leni Robredo. How does that frame isang bayan if you're open to somebody who's not necessarily an oppositionist?
Well, yeah, actually, that's my personal opinion. No, I say that I don't think of him as an oppositionist. But this is something that has not been discussed in Sambayan as to whether he is recognized as an oppositionist or not. That was just my personal opinion.
Yes,
Pero
ma'am.
ma'am,
Ma'am,
she's actually, Mayor Isko is actually presenting himself as a centrist. Sabi niya, he will be a healing president. Yun yung nila, pareho sila nila Senator Lacson, gitna daw sila. Does isang bayan, anong tingin ng isang bayan dito? All this, kahit si Senator Manny Pacquiao, parang ganun ang pinupuntahan Gigitna sila. Anong papel ngayon ng isang bayan dito? Since you are trying to put together a slate, a common candidate against the administration.
Yeah, in other words, we're just open. That was just, getting the pulso ng isang bayan. Yun yung ginagawa namin ngayon. No? That is just one aspect. There are 4 data sets. This is just one particular data na kinukuha namin to get the pulso ng sambayan kung sino ang pinakapopular dito sa mga kandidatong ito. But the other data sets, the other characteristics that have to be taken into consideration, difficult as it may sound, but it's still the stand of Sambayan. You have to look, the second one, you have to look at the character, the track record, the question of the integrity and accountability of this whoever is going to run, and of course, its capability to run a national election, kumbaga. So yun yung apat na naman. That's the second data set that has to be looked into. Kaya titingnan mo ba dun sa track record niya? Ano ba yung ginawa niya nung siya'y nasa congressman o senador o ano, or mayor ba siya? So titingnan lahat ito. That's the second one. So, yun. Tapos the third one is yung kinakausap siya dahil patuloy yung invitation namin sa kanila at kakausapin namin sila para sa ganon na nakikilitis din namin kung paano mag-isip itong mga ito, no? Tapos yung pang-apat, of course, is the external, the intelligence, political intelligence, and then the external, yung kayo, media, kung paano tinitingnan itong mga ito. So may 4 data sets that are being considered. Difficult as it may sound, pero alam niyo, kinakailangan pumasok sa ganitong ganitong framework kung gusto namin na may project. Ang kulang lang kasi hindi nakaka-project pa lamang ng enough, no? Pero kung gusto namin may project kung ano nga ba ang hindi trapo politics, kung gusto namin baguhin yung the right of suffrage at saka yung paano ba tayong naghahalal ng ating mga politicians, kinakailangan na magkaroon ng criteria na malalim-lalim outside of that. So itong first pulso ng sambayan, this is just the first aspect na ginagawa ng kwan. Then,
So parang ma'am, parang nagbago kayo ng plano, no? Kasi we remember, I do, that when you first launched Isambayan, you were going to come up with a short list, actually, of names that you would push, to run. But as it appears now, it looks like you're waiting for whoever will declare, and then you're going to cast your vote as to who you're going to endorse. So in other words, you're not actively persuading anybody anymore to run. I guess the point of my question is, are you still persuading, for example, VP Lenny to run? Are you still there, or are you just now waiting for her to declare if indeed she's running? And then, well, because I just want to know what the process really is now for Isambayan, because everybody's also looking to see whether you will really play the role of the opposition unifier.
that's a very good point. And guess what? We're debating about that, Lucy, because if you ask me, I would say, siguro we should not have projected ourselves so quickly that we are going to come up with a short list of candidates whom we find that should be, in the unified opposition, because that's not how politics is run.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, now we know.
Yeah,
Now you know.
But you have to go through that process. So ikaw kung gano'n, paano ba natin isi-segue ito? Doon sa punto na paano, because the strength of Sambayan is the people, the sectors, the base, the mass base. Maganda ang mass base nito, may potentials ito. At saka mga mulat, organized forces of workers, peasants, maralita, and so on, IPs, and so on and so forth, no? So mga organisado, ibig sabihin nun ng organisado, mahaba-haba ang panahon ng kanilang struggle, pagpupunyagi, pakikibaka. Kaya mas mulat ito. And can you imagine, but this is just unorganized. Itong organisadong ito, maliit lang ito. They're just not 4% of
right.
the
So So if VP Lenny does not run, then your choices are essentially reduced nga to, let's just say Isko and Peng and, on a speculation, Manny Pacquiao, and then possibly Bongbong Marcos, which I'm sure you will not support. I mean, that's obvious, right? But you're now left with Peng and Manny and Isko and I don't know who else, if VP Lenny doesn't run. And I'm sure you will agree with me that based on what you said earlier, they're not really the true blue opposition that you define opposition to be.
Yeah. So that's a problem that we're going to be addressing. That's one of the... Don't worry. We will be addressing that problem.
Doesn't it throw a monkey wrench on your original...
Into everything, even your survey.
Objectives, right.
The selection process. Actually, ma'am, just to add to that, even your criteria, kasi I thought kasi,
Yes.
or I would think that you
That's
have
true.
non-negotiables among your criteria. For example, human rights issues, the anti-terror law, and so on down the line. These I think, and I see you nodding. These I think are non-negotiables for many in Sambayan. And some of those candidates may run afoul of those criteria. In which case po, should they have been already part of the survey before you did the survey, or should they be only considered after the survey is done?
No, the adjustments came, in fact, in the process, because in the beginning, they were no longer part of the survey. In the beginning, it was just limited to whoever was the one that was relating to Sambayan, and it so happened that Lenny Robredo was always, very friendly with Sambayan, so pasok na pasok siya. The Sunny Trillanes, he that was very impressive. Oh, do you know that?
Kinalimutan mo ang Luchi.
Sorry. No, he said kasi if VP Lenny doesn't run, he will run.
Yun.
Nakalimutan ko siya. So, nakagalitan ngayon ako, no? Gano'n. Eta naman, you have to be precise. What about Sunny Trillanes? Oh my God, sabi kong gano'n. Oo nga pala, no? Sabi kong gano'n.
Oo nga pala, hindi mo This is still in the running.
And then, and you know something? Do you know that he did a damn good job in, explaining? Makikita mo, you will be impressed with him. When he came out with his governance program, lahat kami nakatingin na gano'n eh.
You're talking about Senator Trillanes, ha?
Si Sunny Trillanes, ang usay ng paliwanag niya, the West Philippines, comprehensive, ha? Comprehensive yan. Anti-terror law, West Philippines, you name it. Tapos, pero hindi nagyayabang. Talagang aral na aral. Sabi niya ganun, alam naman ninyo that, I was in the Senate for some time and nag-aral din naman ako dito sa public administration. So I guess you put these things together plus my practical experience, likewise in organizing, it came out. Ito na yung programa ko. Pati yung pati yung kaliwa na medyo distansyado sila sa magdalo, di ba? Pati sila, they were impressed. And I really admired him and he wrote I'm going through the process, I signed my name here. Talagang ideal, model si Sunny Trillanes, and he was the first one whom we were able to talk to. Walang katrapo-trapo bilang politiko, no? And, even when he was talking sa mga media, of course, he calls a spade a spade. Hindi naman mga oppositionists yan, eh. Mga enablers pa nga yan. No? Hindi pa nga siya magsalita. Yun naman ang problema, no? Kasi, sabi ko naman dun sa, sino ba yung nag-interview sa akin, you're talking about 61 million Filipinos, and you're talking about 12.5 more because we want to have 73 million, which are the qualified to be able to register in the voting. So you can't just call it, you can't just say, this is a deal breaker. Wala na yan, di na pwede yan. Kasi you're talking to Filipino people na kailangan unti-unti namumulat, maiintindihan ng mga bagay-bagay. So, yun. And then what about the constituents, no? So our discussions would be that why did we include them? Well, we're not really interested in the contenders for the throne per se, not all of them. But then, what about their constituents? Kung malaki-laki ang mga constituents nila, mahalagang nakakausap din sila. We're able to reach out to them. And that is where we talk about the other aspects that I had mentioned to you. Na character, integrity, like what the Senate is doing. It's doing a damn good job. And the COA, never mind the yabang of, I hope he does not make mayabang again. Si
Senator.
Si Gordon. Oo, kasi okay na siya eh. Pero nung napikon din siya, medyo napikon siya noon, and then sila na lang dalawa. Never mind Duterte. Pabayaan mo na si Duterte na magmayabang. Pero just make it more di ba? Solid, stable. At saka pabayaan mo. And he was so impressed when the minority went to him, led by Frank Drilon, shook his hand. Congratulations for doing a good job in leading the Senate through the committee. And, they were quite impressed. The minority was the one that went to Gordon, and maluha-luha siya, became emotional daw. So, that to me...
Naku, baka tumakbo yun. I-endorse nyo ba? Baka tumakbo yun.
Isa pa yung hindi mo binanggit, Lucy. Isa pa yung hindi mo binanggit.
Ang dami nga eh.
Mukhang takot na takot ka, Lucy, ha? Pero ayun.
No, I mean, he could run. I mean, I remember very recently that he said he was thinking about it, he was praying about it. He was going to consult his wife about it. We had him here on the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
So, baka nga.
Pero, no, on the contrary, it is always in consideration of his wife. Kaya nag-iisip siya na hindi na siya tatakbo and all that. Because durugin ni Duterte yung mayoralty ni Kate Gordon, no?
Is winnability even a factor in your selection?
No, at saka he never did ask.
You, isang bayan. I just wonder if winnability factors into your selection.
That's how we say it. The capacity to launch a nationwide campaign. So that kind of implies, in a sense, winnability without having to say that.
Okay. Mameta, that's a problem with having a very good discussion. Nauubusan tayo ng oras eh. But we will have you again, I'm certain, in the next few weeks as we have the run-up towards the filing of the COCs. So, Mameta, maraming salamat for joining us tonight. Eta Rosales ng Sambayan. Again, we hope to have you again later this month or early next month.
Okay.
Maraming salamat po. Ingat po.
Maraming salamat po. Ingat po kayo.
Tapos na pala, no? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you po.
Salamat po.
Okay. Bye-bye.
We will just go into a break, so please stay with us. Welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News, and now joining us for more on today's biggest political story is Aksyon Demokratiko Secretary. Mali. Now joining us for this part of the Chiefs is Senator Ralph Recto, who is a supporter of Mayor Isko Moreno's run for the presidential race. Senator, maraming salamat for joining us tonight, and welcome to the Chiefs.
Thank you
Good
for having
evening,
me.
Senator.
Magandang gabi po.
Inviting. Glad to be here.
Magandang gabi po.
And Amy, Lucci, Robbie. You have
Yes,
a great show.
Yeah. Sir, if you don't mind, kasi lahat ngayon nagtatanong eh. Ngayon lahat nagtatanong with Isko having declared, and of course you are a supporter, and your wife is also a supporter. Lahat nagtatanong, where does that put Isko vis-a-vis Leni Robredo?
I'll put it this way.
I'm sorry, I had to ask that question first kasi
Good, great.
that's a question in everybody's mind.
Right? They're still talking. Okay? Isko you need 40% to win the presidency. If you review the elections from 92 to where we are in 2016, Duterte got 39.6%. Pinoy got roughly 40%. GMA beat FPJ with 40%, roughly. We feel that this election, you need 40% to win the presidency. So, Isko today is roughly at 23%. You need the support of the Lenny supporters, the Crespo supporters, and even 1/4, I suppose, the supporters of Bongbong Marcos to get to 40%. So
But is that already in the...
You need a bigger
Yes, sir.
constituency. That's
And
right.
you,
Yes, sir.
and Senator, I presume you need a lot of time or all the time that you have to master that number. Kahapon po kasi si Senator Serge Osmeña, sinabi niya rin, ako, sinusuporta ko si Isko. And among other things he said was, Lenny is too low. And now, after pag-declare ni Isko Moreno, a lot of people are also saying, wala na yung window for Lenny. How long is that window? Naputula kami kahapon kay Senator Osmeña. That's my question. How long of a window does Leni Robredo still have to negate that narrative, or is that window closed?
No, we're talking about building a coalition. Okay? And like I said, building a coalition, you have the presidential candidate, you have a vice, and you have the senatorial lineup.
Pero tinatanong namin, non-negotiable na yung presidential and vice presidential candidates. Is that it? Kasi parang nawala
Isko
sa...
will run for the presidency, and the vice presidency is Dr. Ong.
Yes, wala na.
Nevertheless, we don't even know if the vice president is interested to run for the presidency.
Okay.
Right? They're talking, right? Now, does that mean that there will be no coalition? I don't think so. Because I think everyone realizes it's a race to get to 40% to a certain degree. These are the
I
numbers.
know. Okay. So you were mentioning that you have to get the votes of Lenny. That's assuming that she is not running, right?
That's
She has yet to declare her
Correct.
intentions. What surprised me is you have to get the vote of Bongbong. I mean, fat chance, right?
No, I'll put it this way. Bongbong is from Luzon. Okay? Isko is from Luzon. There's a geographical issue here too, right? More candidates in Luzon will be bad for those against, let's say, if there's a candidate from the South, who could it be? You have Manny Pacquiao and Sara Duterte. Luzon is 59% of the vote. We know that possible administration candidate, which may be Sara, is very strong in the South, in Mindanao. She's getting, 60% possibly, or maybe even more. So pag naghati-hati rin sa Luzon, halimbawa, matatalo yung kandidato rin ng Luzon. So who are the candidates in Luzon today? You have Isko, you have Ping, and possibly Bongbong. If he doesn't run, where do those votes go? Right? That's what I mean when I say that you need to get those votes. It's a campaign.
If they don't run, but they are running.
Well, we
So
don't know
what are
if Bongbong
yeah.
running for president. We don't know yet. Right now, there are only
Okay.
three candidates, right?
No, okay. So for example, Ping,
let
you
me
think
first
that
get back.
will he give up? Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Ping is said already he's running.
Yes,
Okay, so he's going to get his votes where? In Luzon, right?
right.
Okay, so bawas yan to the candidates in Luzon. Let's say in the case of Isko. Okay, Bongbong is from Luzon. If he doesn't run, where do those votes go? Don't you want to attract those votes too?
Of course, yes. But the question nga is, okay, so you're saying that if Ping runs and Bongbong doesn't run, Isko will probably get Bongbong's votes.
You have to campaign to get some of those
And if-
votes.
Okay.
But are
okay.
you
Senator, I really appreciate yung the pragmatics of it and
Very
even the mathematics of it. Oh, but is it
But
there?
that's
Does
me,
it therefore?
right?
Does it therefore? That exactly.
Okay.
But
Yes,
does it
yes,
therefore?
it is you.
Does it therefore boil down just to who can beat the administration candidate?
Not only. I think we have an excellent candidate, including the way he chose his vice president. So what is the message? Health is priority, right? With Dr. Willie Ong. That is the message.
That's
Today,
interesting. No?
his first paragraph and his last paragraph was about health, isn't it? Right? So don't we need to build our healthcare system more so during the pandemic and moving forward? I think people will realize that choosing Dr. Ong today, who's one of the most neglected sectors? Our health workers. Who does he represent? Isn't it the health workers too? Right?
So Senator, you're telling us that Dr. Willie Ong is actually a strong contender against President Duterte. Parehong Vice President siya eh.
I think he's a strong contender for the vice presidency. He has 16 million followers too who believe in him. In 2019, he had 9 million followers, and he got 7 million votes. That's 80%.
And you're
That's
also
true, sir. Pero
telling us-
that's for the Senate, sir, where you choose 12 candidates versus running for vice president where you only choose one. So
Yes,
medyo
agree.
na po, medyo...
Who among the candidates are like Dr. Willie Ong?
Siya lang yun.
Doktor nga, siya lang eh. Ano ba yung problema natin ngayon? Kalusugan. Di ba? That is a major issue. Now and in the future. Neglected ang healthcare system din natin. We can see that every day. You cannot solve the economic problem unless you solve the health issue, right? That is a strong message. Yes.
Okay, here's a question for you. What if Isang Bayan does not support Isko? Do you think that's going to tilt the tide a bit away from Isko? I mean,
Aangkas po ako sa tanong na yan, ha? Mas diretso lang ako.
Go ahead.
Mahalaga pa ba yung Isang Bayan?
Definitely. I've been in talks with them. Right? Isko is still building the Senate lineup.
Dagdagan ko na yon. Are you personally aware? Are you personally aware of negotiations with the camp of Bongbong Marcos? Are you speaking from personal?
No, there is no negotiations with the camp of Bongbong Marcos. I don't know of any. I know.
So, for example,
kasi you're saying you need to get some of his supporters, di ba?
Yes.
Are you aware of any
campaign
effort? Are you aware of any effort to get
I'm not aware of any. I'm not aware of any.
You're just telling us na kailangan medyo makuha.
But you're going to court.
Yeah.
Yes,
you
you're
look
going
at the
to
numbers,
court
you need
some of
40%
his
to
voters.
win.
Yes.
You have geographical locations to consider.
No, but
yes.
Yun nga, sundutin ko po yung Isang Bayan. What if Senator Trillanes runs and they support Senator Trillanes? Will he be a threat? Would this be a factor, a strong factor against Isko? I just wonder.
We will respect their decision, but the campaign continues.
But will they be a threat? I think that's what I want to know.
I don't know about being a threat. All I can say is that there's less chance of winning for all of us.
Mm,
Mm.
Okay.
against the
Sir,
administrative candidate.
yes, sir.
That's all I'm saying. It's as simple as that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, if you don't mind, sir, diretsen ko po kayo kasi
Sure.
bukas may announcement daw si VP Lenny. Lahat kami nanguhula kung ano yun. Diretsen ko po kayo.
Yes.
Would you know if there's been any agreement between the camp of Robredo and the camp of Isko Moreno? Kasi I understand they met nung Monday and mukhang may napagkasundo at hindi lang malinaw kung ano. And you have said that they are in talks. I don't know lang if that's in reference to talks before or after that particular meeting. Yun po, mukha bang meron kasunduan ang dalawa as far as tomorrow is concerned?
Hindi ko pa alam. I don't know. I know that they're in talks, but I don't
They're
know.
still in talks. They're still in talks.
Yes.
And if VP
So-
Lenny runs, will you support her? Not anymore. You're firm with supporting Isko.
Yes, we're firm with supporting Isko Moreno, but I still believe that there is a chance for unity.
Okay.
A chance for unity. Okay, that's interesting.
Yes, of course. Okay,
But why is it not worth it to if my announcement bukas? Why? But if you're supporting Isko, you're supporting Isko. But I'm also curious. Why not wait another day for whatever the announcement of Vice President Lenny Robredo is? Why is that not worth waiting for anymore?
You'll have to ask Isko, not me. They decided to make the announcement and we support his candidacy. Okay?
No, I'm talking about you. Your support for Isko. I mean, while everybody's waiting for all the chips to fall, why not wait for everybody to declare where they are?
I think he's the best candidate for 2022. VP Lenny can provide big assistance in this campaign. There's no doubt about that.
Do you think that it will come to a scenario where some of the candidates will have to give way to, the candidate most likely to win? Do you think that
I
it'll
think
come
most
to that?
likely, for the opposition, the most likely candidate to win, who has the best chance is Isko.
And so do you think, for example, that Ping Lacson will give way at some point, or Manny
Good
Pacquiao
question.
will give way at some point?
Good
What's the
question.
likelihood?
Lucy, we have a multi-party system, okay, and we do not have runoff elections, okay? But it is possible that in the course of the campaign, but naturally, naturally, the voters, they will take a look, okay, who eventually it will boil down to a choice of two. Then
Yes.
they go to who they want to support. No? Okay. So there's a natural course of events during a campaign. Okay. And it's also possible that in the middle of the campaign, there could be possibly candidates who could withdraw, depending on how the campaign progresses. That's Philippine style multi-party.
Yes, but of course now in hindsight, people saying that if only Maroas gave way to Grace or Grace gave way to Mar, then there would not have been a Duterte win. But as we saw, I mean, neither of them gave way. So don't you see that repeating itself? Because as Ed said earlier, no? No, but betraying your supporters, di ba? Ano yun?
Yeah, remember what I said earlier, Lucy? I didn't even say 50% plus one.
40.
40%.
Yes, 40.
Ang tingin ko
Plurality. Yes.
A magic number, di ba? We don't have a runoff election, we have a multi-party system.
Senator.
But it doesn't mean that you have to enlarge your constituency. Okay? And that constituency will probably be 40% to win. Right? What if the vice president is really not interested to run for the presidency and that her heart is in Bicol? Oh, should everyone wait? That is another question, right?
We should wait another day. Joke. That's what we're doing.
Senator, quick. Oh, go ahead, Abby. Sorry.
Senator, do you actually consider Mayor Isko opposition? Kasi he's
I think everyone running against
presenting himself as a centrist. He's presenting himself as a unifying. So he will be reaching out as well to the Duterte groups. in case lang he
I'll
wins.
put it this way. Everyone running against the administration in an election is essentially an opposition.
Okay.
That's how I look at it. No?
Medyo
Okay.
iba yata yung ano ng isang bayan.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. I think the question is very relevant, particularly in the context of Vice President Leni Robredo and her supporters, because for them there are deal breakers. Diba? Malinaw yung mga
Yes.
issues on human rights, on EJKs, on the war on drugs, and so on. And there are deal breakers there. And
Yes, correct.
there are many things there, and that's a very substantial block of voters, as you have acknowledged.
Mayor Isko says that he is for the rule of law. So if you're for the rule of law, hindi ka pabor sa EJK. Diba? What was the other? Human rights.
Pero sir,
He's in favor of
sir,
human rights.
but the president also says the same thing. I mean, in fairness, the president also says rule of law, but he's also being accused of EJK.
Correct.
So-
Correct. Oh, what is the track record of Isko as far as that is concerned? Meron ba siyang human rights violation?
Yes, but that,
Check
but I
EJK?
think what people are pointing out is, for example, in the early years of the war on drugs, there was no pushback in Manila from on the war on drugs. I mean, and as I was saying, kahit sa Dolomite Beach, walang pushback eh.
Oy, alam mo, simple yung mga issue niyan. Very practical yung iba dyan eh. Dolomite Beach, ginagastos.
I was being glib there. I was talking about human rights, war on drugs.
Let me answer that, okay? The national government is spending para pagandahin yung Manila. So ba't niya tatanggihan? Whether tama yun o mali, in Dolomite, hindi naman Manila government ang gumagawa nun eh. Diba? His job was to be mayor of Manila.
Okay, and then what about the more fundamental questions of human rights and how the war on drugs were conducted in the early years? And let's be, for the record, even with NAPOLCOM numbers, in the first 2 years, a lot of the killings happened in Manila. Caloocan, Manila, particularly stood out.
Bago siyang mayor nun, he had to get the council together to support his program, so on and so forth. You cannot be fighting too many battles when you're a mayor. Kakalabanin mo pa yung presidente, trabaho mo ngayon, paano tulungan yung constituency mo sa Manila eh. So in the Senate, many of us were against it. Okay? But it doesn't mean that if you're in the majority in the Senate, we spoke out against that. Pero ang tingin nila, if you're in the majority in the Senate, you're already with the administration. In the first year, I was the minority leader in 2016. I was the minority leader in the Senate.
Kanina po, sabi sa amin ni Eta Rosales, yung pagka-opposition ni Mayor Isko is very personal. What can you say about that?
What do you mean by very personal?
Personal daw na away. Parang personal na yung reaction to President Duterte.
Bakbakan nilang dalawa ni Pangulong Duterte.
Oo, ganon.
Alam mo, wala namang perpekto eh. Lalo na kung galing ka sa lokal. Minsan mapapasagot ka ng ganun din eh. No? Okay? So, I take it as is, no? But, we've heard him speak today. Ano yung sinabi niya? Kahit galing siya sa mahirap, hindi niya minumura ang Diyos. So, on and so forth.
Yeah. Tanong ko na lang, sir, ano ang siguro pinakamapanghamon na issue laban kay Isko na siguro dapat talagang i-frame ng maayos, no, or sagutin ng maayos? For example, do you find that his inexperience, let's just say, in national governance, is a liability?
He's had 23 years of experience, no? Councilor, vice mayor, and now mayor. Mahaba rin yun, ha? And it's not easy to be a councilor, a vice mayor, and mayor of Manila. That's a premier capital.
But he's coming into a post where he's going to be deciding on 4 trillion, 5 trillion level budgets as opposed to as opposed to what?
put it
What is
this
the
way,
budget
I've
of
had-
Manila now? You would know because you're Ways and Means. Okay.
Yeah.
Economist naman si supporter, si Senator Recto.
So kaya tayo nandito para tumulong din sa kanya. Di ba? Okay, now having said that, I've spoken to him, I've known him for several months. Okay? The guy understands governance. Okay? He was educated in Harvard as well.
Harvard tsaka Oxford.
And Oxford. He understands governance, the economy, how it operates, how to create jobs. More important, his narrative, kung saan siya nanggaling. I am very much impressed by him. I think he has the leadership skills, he has the skills, and he has the training and the experience. So to me, tatlong bagay ito. Okay? One, address the pandemic. Ito yung sinabi niya sa akin. Address the pandemic. Okay? Bigyan ng oportunidad yung mga mahihirap. Poverty. Okay? Na kung saan siya nanggaling. And three, strengthening democracy.
Okay. Sir, sisingit sana ako sa pantanong eh. Ewan ko may oras pa tayo.
Sure.
Pero sige, sisingit ko na rin. Sir, where is the Nationalista Party in all of this? Kasi you are NP, I understand.
Yes,
Also,
correct.
Vilma Santos is NP. Yet I think
Correct.
Vilma Santos is running under Isko Moreno in the Senate slate.
No.
At the same
She's
time-
not decided to run.
Hindi pa.
Di ba? Hindi pa.
Sinubukan lang po isingit ni Ed. Baka makalusot yung scoop ni Ed.
Sir, teka, di pa ako tapos. Pero, but you have Mark Villar running for the Senate under the Cusi faction. Of course, Mark Villar, anak ng Pangulo ng Nationalista Party.
Let me
Also-
correct you. Mark Villar is running for the Senate under the Nationalista. He's being adopted by the
Adopted, okay,
But
okay,
he is Nationalista.
Yes, sir. And then you have Alan Peter Cayetano, who is Secretary General, I think, of the Nationalista Party. Well, we don't know yet what he's running for, pero yung ads niya clearly nandyan na. So,
Hey, the
so
last,
baka,
President.
the
so
last
where does that
election-
put you and the NP?
Okay. Ed, 2016, we had 3 vice presidents.
Yes, sir. That's true.
Sani Trillanes is an NP. Bongbong Marcos is an NP. Alan Cayetano is an NP. All 3 lost to Lenny. Right?
Okay, that's a, okay,
You know,
that's a
I'm
good
a
point.
believer of Lenny. I'm a believer of Lenny. Okay? We gave her the victory in Batangas of 260,000 votes in 2016. We campaigned for her here. Okay? So ano yung lamang niya kay Bongbong in 2016? 260,000.
Mhm.
And Batangas delivered. Right?
Okay.
I think she did well as vice president. Sayang lang yung pagkakataon niya.
Okay.
Very interesting conversation with with Senator Ralph Recto. Sir, teka, we want to have you again very soon.
Mahaba-habang kwentuhan pa.
Mahaba dapat ang kwentuhan sa inyo, sir.
Gusto
If
mo
you
yung
don't mind,
forma ni Isko, maganda rin.
Yeah.
Pero sir, I'm afraid that's well, we're out of time eh.
Sure, yeah.
I'm afraid we have
Thank you
to
for
say goodbye
having
po.
me.
Pero thank you
Great.
very much for
Thank you
Salamat
for
pa.
Yeah,
raising
you have a
the
great show.
chiefs.
Thank you very much.
Salamat.
Thank you, sir.
Salamat pa.
Okay. And now let's bring in our final guest tonight, the Secretary General of the Acción Democrático, si Secretary General Ernest Ramil. Sec Gen Ramil, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Chiefs.
Good
Good evening, sir.
Good evening po.
Nice to be back here. But let me just correct po, I was just recently elected as chair of Acción Democrático.
I'm sorry,
Share
sorry.
na
I'm sorry.
pala. Share na
Apo.
pala, Romel. Okay.
I'm sorry, sir. Ako, na-demote
It's
ko tuloy
okay, it's
kayo.
okay.
Oo
No
nga,
worries.
dinemote mo eh.
Thanks.
Sir, I'm sure you were listening to our conversations, very interesting conversations, especially with Senator Ralph Recto. Pero sir, I don't know how to assist pero kasi may announcement bukas si VP Robredo and we're all trying to figure out what could it be and kung may napag-usapan, kung may napagkasunduan na yung dalawang panig, VP Lenis camp and Isko Moreno's camp. Magkasunod silang mag-announce magkasunod announcements Just in case meron pong kasunduan.
I don't want to preempt the Vice President with her announcement. In fact, I'm surprised that I just heard it from you that she's making an announcement tomorrow. I just texted a friend of mine who's with her office, and I asked him, "Naghahanap pala si Bibi tomorrow?" So he hasn't replied back yet. So I'm just pleasantly surprised as well. But I don't know what her announcement will be. I don't want to preempt what's going to be announced tomorrow.
Okay, I Sec Jen, we've been talking about
Chairman,
Isko
Chairman.
Moreno.
O hindi siya chairman na siya.
Sorry. Okay. So we've been talking about Isko Moreno practically the whole evening. I do want to talk about also Dr. Willie Ong. We know he was not the first choice. They've been very candid about that. But tell us a bit. What was the process? And ultimately, why Willie Ong? And diretsuhin ko na kasi ang dami nagtatanong. Sigurado ba tayong hindi placeholder yan?
Well, just like to answer the last one, it's definitely not. It was a very strategic move on the part of Mayor Scott. There were names at the onset that were discussed, that were talked about, and we looked at it, we discussed it, and when his name came about, our vice presidential candidate, it was something that a little of a surprise to me, but little by little, it made sense because like Senator Recto said, it was sabi nga ng ibang mga kaibigan ko rin, genius choice. Kasi pandemya ngayon and nakita naman natin how Mayor Sko ran Manila with a doctor by his side, Dr. Hani Lacuna. And sabi niya nga, he does things by prototypes. Mga nasubukan niya na, nagawa niya na. And how they addressed COVID, the pandemic in Manila, is how he intends to also do it in the national level and more. And who else to get as a running mate but Dr. Willie Ong, who has a wide knowledge of these things. In fact, when he gave his speech kanina, he said that we will give the best vaccine sa mga Pilipinos, sa mga mamayang Pilipino. No? He will give the best equipment, medical equipment. He will ensure that the neglected frontliners will be taken care of. So these are the things that they've been doing in Manila. Mayor Scott has been doing in Manila, and it's going to be taken into the national level.
Anong assessment nyo sa chances niya sa Visayas and Mindanao, but of course we know nga that Mindanao baluarte yan ng mga Duterte, no? But kasi hindi siya masyadong kilala outside of Luzon, no? In fact, outside of NCR, di ba, hindi rin siya masyadong kilala. So how do you propose to, well, I hate to use the word, but to sell him to constituents that are so far from his own? I mean, yung hindi siya kilala at all. Paano ang benta dyan?
I think I saw a number recently that Mayor Scott's number went up in Mindanao. This is an internal survey. I saw that he went up in Mindanao by a good margin, by a very good number, around 15% if I'm not mistaken. And that's surprisingly good, right? He hasn't announced yet. He hasn't done anything yet. And yet that number is right there. And I also saw a decline on the number of Sarah. So I think right now what we're seeing is that people are beginning to look at other candidates, even in Mindanao, even in the Visayas, because they see there's nothing really happening with the current administration. And why give it to another? I mean, a daughter who will probably run the same things. I mean, do the same things like the father. So people are now looking for alternatives. People are now looking for other candidates who could help them get us out of this mess.
Pero was
So
there
hindi kayo...
discussion?
Go ahead.
was there a lot of discussion? Kasi you're breaking the tradition na yung president saka vice president from different parts of the country. Ito, hindi lang parehong Luzon, pareho pang taga-Tondo.
Taga Manila, taga Tondo, that's right.
Pareho silang pinanganak doon. Hindi pa kayo, was there a lot of discussion about that?
Actually, even the other choices are mostly also from Luzon, So right now, again, the campaign will be ran differently. Obviously, you're aware of that because of the limitations, the platform that will be used, mostly probably social media, will reach a lot of people, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, regardless of whether you're born from Tondo, Manila, or you're born in Pangasinan, or you're born in Davao. And I think what's very important is what is the message that you bring? What's the narrative that you bring? What will be your platform of governance? How will you give out and tell the people your plans to get us out of we're going to be heavily indebted by 2030. Well, as right now we are, and then by 2022 probably 12 trillion na tayo may utang natin. So how are we going to get out? Ano yung game plan mo? That's going to be important to Filipinos. Yung pandemya will be important to Filipinos regardless of Luzon, Visayas, or Mindanao ka. I think these are things that should be looked at. How people will see and perceive these candidates.
Mr. Ramil, you're talking about resources. We constantly have to remind ourselves and the people, Action Demokratiko, ito yung partido ni Raul Roco. And even then, it was always a small party, lalo na ngayon. On the other hand, we do have to give it to you. You have one of the front runners as your stand bearer right now. But given both of that, yung gaano kayo kaliit, and at the same time, you have a front runner, give us a sense of what the indication that you're getting in terms of the kinds of support and resources that you can muster in these coming months.
All right, good question. Number one, right now, you'd be surprised how many people or how many candidates, incumbent ones at that, are knocking on our doors. So they're saying you want to run under the party because they believe in his scope. They believe in how he ran Manila. They believe in his accomplishments and they believe in his vision. So marami, they want to join. However, we don't just get candidates like how we did with Mayor Sco before he came in. Even Mayor Vico Soto, before he became part of the party, we really had to interview him. He had to go through a process. They all have to go through a process. So it takes a little time. No, alam naman natin ngayon malapit na yung filing, but it takes a little time. But it's okay with us. What's important is that we get quality candidates. Now, to address what you're saying that even then we were a small party in 2004 and 98 when Raul Roco ran. But also remember that most in the history of our campaigns post-EDSA, the Goliath machineries always did not make it. I mean, the Mitra machinery, the Joe de Venecia machinery in 2004, that's debatable. In 2010, diba, the administration machinery also lost to a small. Most parties that won are the smaller ones, diba? If you go by history.
But kaya ko rin tinatanong because there must be a dilemma, diba? On the one hand, you want to win, diba? And if incumbents are knocking at yours, you just want to let everybody in. On the other side of that, I guess the question is, how do you ensure you don't become the next PDP Laban, where you let in all the barbarians at the gates?
Yeah, from a Volkswagen party becoming a bus and then going back to a Volkswagen party. Yung ganung pangyayari ba?
Precisely, I agree with you. No? We don't want to we don't want to go in the way of liberal party. Ang ibig sabihin pala ng LP is lakas pala, no? So, I have a lot of friends there, but na naiwan pa, at yun yung talaga maaayos na tao. But we don't want to go in the way of PDP Laban. 2016 was just like us, a small party. Pero biglang laki, but you expect that the next administration, kung nasa na naman yung nanalo, doon na naman yung mga, we don't want to go that way. Like I said, we have our processes, we have our principles, and we want to stand by it. We don't want to destroy the legacy of our founder. We don't want to destroy all those things that we worked really hard for over the past few years. Na kahit we were small, but we maintained the integrity of the party.
Mhm. Sir, I'll squeeze in one last question if you don't mind.
Sure.
Kasi there's been a lot of talk in the last 4 or 5 years about democratic institutions that apparently have been weakened over the past 5 years. Despite all the talk about rule of law, you've had so many institutions that are now shaking and quaking. And well, coming from the idea of Raul Roco's party, which Action Democratico is, are you confident that Isko Moreno will beef up these institutions and reinforce these institutions all over again, or kasi I asked that kasi, for example, President Duterte was harping before about rule of law, and well, there are a lot of critics who say that it's not what happened.
Yes. It's been harping about the rule of law, but I mean, ano ba yung record niya rin sa Davao? Yes, that DDS or Davao Death Squad, diba? So, naibenta yan sa national, pero hindi naman natignan kung ano yung talaga nangyayari pala dun sa lokal. But if you look, kanina Robbie had a question about Manila nung first 2 years. Sabi mo may mga napakitong figures that maraming patayan. But he wasn't mayor then. I think Senator Ralph missed that. He wasn't mayor then. It was ERAP who was mayor then. In 2019, he only assumed in 2019, the third year of Duterte's
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
I stand corrected there. That's right.
It's okay, sir. And during that time, lagi niya pinipresenta pa nga yung mga nahuhuli na sinasabi pa nga na may violation of human rights. No, nakatalikod, nakatalakbong yung mukha ng mga tao. He was just saying, oh, walang patay dito. We don't do that in Manila. And it's a direct, although he didn't name who's doing that, parang tinira niya na rin in effect yung administrasyon by saying we don't do EJKs here. We make sure that kung may kasalanan, huliin, ikulong, i-prosecute. That's how things should be done. And that's what he's saying. And to that effect, when we interviewed him about yung sinira yung Supreme Court just because ayaw niya yung and so on, sinira yung Senado, may pinakulong na senador just because kaaway din. You're weakening institutions. And these were questions that we asked. Paano ang hustisya? Paano ang rule of law? How will you deal with ICC, for example? Kanina, in his speech, sinabi niya kung meron tayong mga treaties abroad, kung meron tayong mga agreements abroad, that will be honored. Diba? And that's clear na when he was asked about ICC during the press conference. So, I think yun yung importante, that he believes and he will stand by the rule of law of justice. Because we also believe in Action Democratico that we cannot heal without justice. Hindi pwedeng, bati-bati na lang tayo, di ba? Hindi naman tayo pwedeng ganun na lang, magkalimutan na lang. Let the wheels of justice turn. Hayaan natin ng hustisya ang mag-take care of these shenanigans, itong mga sabi niya kanina, mga Taliban na sa pamahalaan. Dapat managot. At kahit hindi lang yan, siguro ngayong administrasyon, kahit mga nakaraang administrasyon, if people were found wrong, then they should be answerable to law. And that's what he also stands for. That's what Isko Moreno stands for.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll have you again very soon.
At saka sana si Mayor. Si Mayor naman.
At saka si Mayor din.
Tayo kay Mayor.
Sige sir, maraming salamat po. That was Action Democratico Chairman, sir, tama na sir
Thank you.
Chairman Ernest Ramil Jr. speaking to us in the chief. Sir, maraming salamat at ingat po.
Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat po. Ingat po kayo.
Ingat po kayo.
Thank you po. And that'll be all for this midweek edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Remember, please, mask on, wash hands, and stay safe. Philippines, I'm Edwin Gao.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Robbie Alampay, and we are One News.